All right. Well, it's been a
Week.
little over a week since we got back from actually exactly a week.
Yeah.
We got back from our 1 year anniversary trip,
Yeah.
and we wanted to do like a follow-up video so we can kind of go over the details and stuff. This will be a little bit longer because we're just going to kind of hit on stuff and
Yeah.
bring up some of the memories that we didn't really quite hit on in the small videos.
Yeah.
So go ahead, start it off.
So the beginning of our trip, we drove through Ohio, which was like 10 hours, and then the next day we went on into New York City. But first we stopped in Jersey Shore. We went to the.
I don't know if it was the Jersey Shore, but it was like
It was
Jersey City.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Jersey City.
Yeah, but it was next to the water, and like right
Yeah.
across the water was New York City.
Yeah, so that was really cool. They actually had a memorial there that had the pillars for the World Trade Centers, and it was actually supposed to be where you could see the World Trade Centers from.
From New Jersey
That
or from
side.
that part, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a cool little train yard where, right by Ellis Island, where the immigrants would come and get on their train and ride
Yeah,
to wherever they were going.
yeah. They didn't use that train station anymore, but
No, it was
the
not.
building
It was-
and stuff was still there, so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and then up to that point we weren't very good at driving in big cities together, so we learned our lesson. And she kind of was like the navigator. I had my GPS ups too, but I would just focus on driving, and she would tell me when to turn.
Yeah,
So luckily,
so we worked it out.
we
And we
sorted it
lived
out.
through New York City,
We did.
driving in New York City.
We had to take a tunnel underneath the Hudson River to get to Manhattan.
Yep.
That was cool.
Yeah, but the driving was insane.
Yeah, it was wild.
People were honking and
Zipping in front of us,
yeah,
and
it was crazy.
yeah.
It was insane.
And we had New York pizza
yes.
the night we got there. It was like $30 for a large pizza, but
it was
but
huge.
it was really good. We really liked it.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Yeah, and that place was like right beside us, so we didn't have to go very far. We
Yeah.
just went downstairs.
It was right beside us, and then right down there was Times Square, really right by Times Square.
Yeah,
So that
it was cool
sweet.
because we were on like the 16th. We had to move rooms, so the first night we were on the 16th floor, and the second night we were on the 15th floor.
Yeah,
But that was cool because you could like see all the buildings and stuff. And Buffalo Wild Wings was on the other side of us. You could
Yeah.
see like they had tables and stuff on their roof. So that was really cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So
And we, so the second day we were there, we got on a subway, and the New York subway is really gross. It was just dirty, and the first one we got on smelled like poop.
yeah,
We're pretty sure there was a homeless man in there who pooped his pants.
yeah.
So,
It was not the best first experience.
no, not at all. I asked Danielle, I was like, do you think it's going to be like this the whole time?
Because we had to ride a subway the whole time, like from stop to stop, to see all the different
Yeah.
things we wanted to see. So we got to see the Statue of Liberty. We rode a ferry across and saw the Statue of Liberty.
And we went to the Empire State Building. We went to the World Trade Center memorial. Saw where they stood and where the new one World Trade Center was.
Mhm.
So that was really cool.
We got to see Grand Central Station,
Yep, that's right.
which was cool.
hmm
That was fun.
And then we also got to see Wicked. We went to Broadway.
Yeah,
And
that was awesome.
it was like 3 hours long.
It was so cool though.
It was good.
It was very good.
I wasn't sure what to expect, but it was pretty good.
We
And
got
then,
some Italian food.
yes,
That was really good.
before that we had Italian
Yeah.
food.
And then we tried to go to this place where we thought it was gonna be a really cool, like dessert place.
Yeah, it was called like Holy Cream,
Yeah.
and they're supposed to have like ice cream and donut desserts. And we walked like 40 minutes to get there, and it ended up being closed.
Yeah. We walked up and it didn't say anything online about it being closed.
No, they just advertised it.
Yeah, they still said like had the hours and stuff and said that it was open, but when we walked up there was newspapers in the windows and stuff. It was completely closed down.
It was dumb.
So that was
So we walked back to by where we were on Times Square, and there was a gelato place that was
Yeah.
super overpriced, but it was still the only place open.
Yeah,
And
everything
it
was
was
starting to
good,
shut down.
but I paid like $7 for my little tiny cup of gelato.
He was not happy.
It's like I should have gotten a pint of ice cream.
Yeah, for that much. It was super expensive. It was good though.
Danielle had a waffle with gelato.
I did. I had a waffle. It was like a Belgian waffle with ice cream. It was really expensive, but it was really good. We should try that at home.
We could do that ourselves for a lot cheaper.
For a whole lot cheaper.
Make like 50 waffles.
Yeah. So that was really good. But then the next morning we took a long walk through Central Park trying to get back to our car.
Yeah, we had,
But it
because
was
we
pretty.
parked our car for 2 days and just left it.
Yeah.
And we just rode the subway and walked.
Yeah.
So.
But it was cool. The sun was coming up and we got coffee and bagels.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Walked through Central Park and all
Didn't
of
get
that.
shot or anything.
We lived.
Didn't get mugged.
And then we had to survive the morning traffic train to get out of the city on a
People
Monday
were going
morning.
to school. People were going to work.
Yeah, and they shut down like different streets because like they only want traffic to go one direction on some of the streets that is normally two ways. So it was crazy trying to get out of there.
Yeah, but we got out and took a deep breath and got into Connecticut.
Yeah.
And we saw a cool coastline in Connecticut, and then we saw the sun just kind of poked out. Anyways, and then we saw some lighthouses.
Yeah, we got to see a lighthouse. We were actually in one of the harbors, and on the other side, we couldn't see it because it was really hazy, but like that was where we had just come from, and
New York.
then the New York side, and then there was a pretty cool lighthouse. It was a little chilly there, but actually we did really well with the weather. It could have been a lot worse. Yeah. But they were having kind of a hot flash while we were there.
Yeah, hot flash.
Thank God.
It was like a postmenopausal woman up in New York having hot flashes.
So the lighthouse was cool. Then we went into Rhode Island.
Anyways, when we went to Rhode Island and we saw Danielle and I's friend Mary Earl, she fed us lunch. We had some really healthy food for the first time.
Thank God, because we had eaten really healthy. Unhealthy.
We weren't doing good.
Yeah. So
but it was our anniversary, so we eat whatever we want.
Yeah.
And then we went to Newport, Rhode Island. It was really pretty.
It's on the coast.
And some really pretty houses.
Yeah.
And a walkway that went around. We only walked for like a couple minutes on it.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty long trail that went all the way through.
Which would have been cool if you were just there for the time being.
Yeah,
but
we didn't have time to do that.
We didn't have time. Yeah.
But it was still really, really pretty. It was a gorgeous spot.
Definitely.
Yeah. Then we went to Plymouth Rock.
The Plymouth Rock.
Yeah.
Where the Pilgrims landed in 1620-ish.
Yep.
And we found out that that wasn't actually Plymouth Rock. It was just a rock that a dude found 100 years later who had ancestors who were some of the Pilgrims. Yeah. And he said, this will be the rock that we use.
Yeah, so it was just a symbol.
But we got a video of that, and we talked about it and stuff. It was still a cool town.
Yeah, because that's still the area that they landed.
Yeah.
But the Plymouth Rock that they have in the cage is not necessarily what they landed on.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it was pretty cool. But that whole, like, it was a little bit, you could tell they had, like, shops and stuff, but during the winter, that whole section of town, like, shuts down. Yeah. They apparently don't ever have visitors who trudge through there.
In the winter, yeah.
In the winter. But it was pretty cool. Then we drove through Boston, and it was getting to be dark, and so that was pretty cool to see the lights and stuff.
And then we drove, there was a tunnel that went underneath Boston, so we didn't have to drive through it.
So we saw the skyline, and we went into this tunnel, and we came out the skyline.
It was
behind us, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah. And then we got to New Hampshire, where we stopped, and got this place called Mr. Max, because we had decided to try to get foods that were in the Northeast that we couldn't normally get. So we had like New York pizza, Italian food. But in New Hampshire, there's a popular chain restaurant called Mr. Max Macaroni and Cheese. So we got buffalo chicken, macaroni and cheese, and jalapeno macaroni and cheese. And it was really good. We were really hungry, so perfect.
My goodness. It was awesome. It
was
so good.
From there, we started seeing a lot of snow there.
Yeah.
And we
Our
drove.
Our car got really dirty.
It was really dirty.
From all the snow and gunk and salt and crap.
It was bad.
Yeah.
But then we drove to Maine, Freeport, Maine, stayed. And then we got up in the morning,
we went to Cape Elizabeth, which is on the coast. It was probably the prettiest place we went.
Yeah,
it
the
was
best view.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It was so pretty. And the sand was black for the shore.
Yeah.
It was black
And
sand.
the rock was really grainy. It looked like wood.
Yeah, it did. For a little while we couldn't figure out like if parts of it were actually wood, but most of it was just rock. So
Yep.
it was really cool.
It was cool.
Very, very pretty. There was a lighthouse that we couldn't get to.
Yeah. But the place we were at was prettier.
Yeah,
So.
it was much prettier.
But then we left there. We drove to Castle in the Clouds
Yes.
in New Hampshire.
Yep.
Which when we got there, it was closed.
Yes.
It was like a park area.
Yeah.
But
we knew the castle itself was going to be closed, but we thought we could at least like
Go
get
outside of
close
it.
to it and like see it. You can't. They shut down like the road to get up to it.
Yeah.
So we couldn't see it.
So we went to like the visitor center, and they had like a little museum, and there was one guy there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went out to this back patio area and locked ourselves out. So we thought we were gonna have to jump off the like roof to get out into like a snowdrift.
Yeah.
Luckily, the guy found us like right when I was about to do that.
About to jump off.
And then we went back to our car, but then we snuck up the hill so we could see.
There was like a
Castle in the
foot of
Clouds.
snow everywhere.
Yeah,
So we were
literally
like trudging
a foot.
through the snow. We
Yeah.
actually have a video of that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it was neat. It was really neat.
So that was cool.
And we went out down and we played in the snow and pushed each other in the snow and stuff.
Yeah,
It
that was fun. We almost went up a trail, but then there was a sign there saying, please don't, because there's snow everywhere
It just
and
wasn't a good time.
not a good time to go trudging through the forest.
So we left.
Yep.
We drove to Vermont, and the place in Vermont we wanted to see was closed.
Which it wasn't supposed to be, so we don't know why that was closed. But they
Yeah.
shut down the whole mountain, like you couldn't get up there.
It was disappointing. And so we made a video for that, and we were disappointed. And the video ended up getting screwed up.
Yeah.
It didn't record our
It didn't
voices.
record. Yeah.
But then we went to another place. We had like these cool bluffs. And we
Mhm.
shot a video there, and we're a little more okay, like whatever. This is neat, but
We were still
bummed
frustrated
out.
with Vermont.
But then we were driving through Bennington, Vermont, which is like right by New York, upstate New York,
Mhm.
and we see like this big gray tower, and I'm like, "Well, what's that? Let's go see that." So we drive up to it, and we find out it's Danielle looks it up, and it's called this Bennington Battle Memorial, which was the turning point in the Revolutionary War, where the Americans ended up, or the colonists, turned the tide of the war and beat the British.
Yeah.
And it's just this really cool tower that looks similar to the Washington Monument,
Yeah. Looks very
but it's like a darker gray.
Mhm.
And so in that video, I'm like pretty excited because
He
it was just a
super
really,
excited.
yeah, it was just a really cool discovery.
Yeah,
So
we found it just in time too because the sun was starting to go down and
yeah,
all of that stuff. But it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was neat. So then we stayed the night in Rochester, New
we
York.
drove from Vermont to
Yeah,
through New York to Rochester.
Yeah. We woke up the next morning. It was icing, freezing rain. So we had to wait a few hours before we could start driving.
Yeah.
But we got to see Lake Ontario. So now we've seen 4 out of the 5 Great Lakes,
Yes.
and that was cool. It was so
It
cold.
was freezing. You could feel the wind coming off the
Oh.
lake, and there was
So
like
cold.
part of where the water met the land, the ice and sand had mixed, and it was making like these barriers, so the water was like slapping up against it and
Yeah.
splashing. You can see that in our video.
Yeah,
It's pretty
instead
cool.
of like sand dunes, it was just sand and ice
Yeah.
mixed together.
It was interesting.
Very interesting. It's so cold.
Then we left
But that was
there, or we went back to our hotel and chilled out and waited for the snow or the
Yeah.
weather to get better, and it didn't. So we just drove to Niagara Falls, and we got to see Niagara Falls, New York, which was really not that cool.
Yeah.
Niagara Falls, New York is not impressive at all.
The city.
The city, no.
No.
I mean, the falls and the park that's in New York is neat.
That's cool.
That was cool, but the city is just really just seems so run down and just. Ugh.
It was-
So we crossed over to the Canada side, and that was really pretty.
Yeah,
it was really
that was
neat.
awesome. When people say that the Canada side of Niagara Falls is much prettier,
We understand.
it's because the falls is actually on the U.S. side, and so from the Canada side you can see the falls.
And
So.
Niagara Falls, Ontario, in Canada is really a nice town. Like
Yeah.
it's actually It's where you'd,
Very
if you were
touristy
going up there,
stuff.
you'd want to stay in Canada.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
Yeah.
It was really cool though.
yeah. We had our first interaction with border crossing, which was a little rough.
Yeah.
The-
It was a little unsettling.
Yeah.
It was just scary.
It was just a whole another story. But
Yeah.
then we left there and we went to Gettysburg.
Yeah, we stayed the night in Pennsylvania, and then the next morning we went up and got to Gettysburg. And they have reserved like the whole main area, the whole huge field where they had the battle, Gettysburg
Yes.
battle. So that was pretty cool. There were tons of memorials everywhere.
We went to the Pennsylvania Memorial for the men that died, and you can get on the top of it and see the whole area. And then we went over to where like the South kind of congregated,
hmm
and there was a tower there. We got to go up and saw a really pretty view of
Yeah.
the whole area.
Yeah, so
Then
that
we
was
left, and we
Yep.
went from Pennsylvania to this back road to Maryland. There was no sign. It
Yeah.
was like this back road.
there was nothing.
Yeah, and so
We went to Delaware.
we went to Delaware from there.
Yeah, which we did not have huge expectations because we had a hard time finding something
Anything.
to see in Delaware. So we just ended up picking this park that was on the Delaware River. But when we pulled in, it was Newcastle, Delaware.
Newcastle, Delaware.
And it actually had been settled in like 1650.
Yeah,
So
it's really
just
old.
like 30, 40 years after the Pilgrims came over.
Yeah.
That area was settled, and there was still like really old buildings, and the old part of that city was really cool. You could see like big churches, or not big churches, but
Old
old
churches,
churches that
old
had built
buildings,
in-
old pubs.
yeah,
Just all
stuff
this.
that had been built in the 1700s.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. Ended up really being really neat.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
And then we left and went to Baltimore. This is all the same day. We saw
Yeah.
Gettysburg. We saw Delaware. Then we went to Baltimore, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
In Maryland, we saw some really cool stuff.
Yep.
We had to,
Some bunch of ships.
yeah,
Yep, old ships and subs. There was one submarine that was from
World
like
War
World
II.
War II, so that was really cool.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really neat.
And there was a spot there where there was this blue heart statue that they had. And just a couple of days after we met, before we even started like talking or dating or anything, I was there with a friend and had taken a picture with that heart. So we ended up getting a picture with the heart together 2 years later. So
Yeah, it was cool.
that was kind of cool.
Then we grabbed some potbelly sandwiches.
They're so good.
They were really good.
Yes.
And then we drove to DC, got stuck in traffic. It should have been like an hour and a half drive,
Yeah.
but it was 2.5 hours.
Ended up being like 2.5 hours.
But we got to a Holiday Inn in
In
Virginia, which was a really nice hotel.
Yeah, it was cool.
And the next day, we got up at like 5:45, ate breakfast, and then took a metro into to
Virginia.
Arlington, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
where the Pentagon was, and the Pentagon was like our video for
For
Arlington, for Virginia, yeah. And we found out while we were taking pictures and shooting video that you're not supposed to. So we have those videos and pictures. And if we have to take them down, we will.
I'm so
But
sorry.
no one said anything yet, so
Yeah.
we'll see. Anyways,
So we got to see the memorial that's there for the flight that landed in
the flight that was
crashed
crashed,
into
the 9/11 crash,
yeah
plane
into
crash.
the Pentagon.
Yeah.
So we got to see that, and then we actually walked 2.5 miles into DC.
Yeah, it was a long walk, and it
Very
was
long
at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
So that was a long walk. But then we got into DC, and we saw the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Mall, the Washington Monument,
It's the
or the
White
National
House.
Mall, the Washington Monument, the White House, the
Mhm.
Capitol,
Yes.
like everything, all the stuff that
Everything you
see.
can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's obsessed with birds, the motorized scooters that a lot of cities had. And so by lunch, we were exhausted. We had already walked a lot. So we got those and rented some of them and rode around,
Rode the
seeing
scooters.
the rest of the stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
We had lunch at a really cool place called the Hamilton,
Yeah, that was really cool.
and had a really good meal. I can't even remember what it was called, but it was kind of like a spicy Italian dish,
Yeah, it was good.
and had really good dessert. She had bread pudding, and I had like this ooey gooey chocolate fudge thing.
Mhm.
It was delicious.
It was
so good.
awesome.
And then
So
from there, we actually, this is 2019, so it's the second to last year of President Trump's term in office. So we are only like 2 hours away from seeing him. We could have like leaving the White House. So that was
according
cool.
to the online schedule.
Yeah. And then we saw Marine One, which is the helicopter rides in, before we went into the Holocaust Museum.
Yeah.
So we went to the Air and Space Museum, we went to the Castle Museum, or Smithsonian Museum, and then we went to the Holocaust Museum. It was the last museum and site we saw, which was really depressing, but it was a very cool museum.
It was done very well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then we rode back to D.C.
Yeah.
Sorry, we rode back from D.C. to Virginia, our hotel, and we were going to get some room service, but we felt weird about that, so we just got Chinese. We got sushi.
Yeah, it was really good. It was good.
Yeah. And then we woke up that morning and
we headed drove through West Virginia, which overall, as a state, is really pretty. There were a bunch of pull-offs where you could see the mountains and stuff, so that was really
sang
cool.
Country Roads by John Denver about 37 times.
Yeah, through
Sings about West Virginia. Which is very appropriate.
Yes, it was cool though. We had fun. And then we stayed the night in Kentucky, and we got to go to this, the cattle.
We went to Blackwater Falls in West Virginia.
We did. We went to Blackwater Falls.
It was cut off. We were supposed to go further down to it, and we snuck under it. Well, everybody did, so it wasn't like
there were tons of people.
Not like we were criminals or anything.
The reason you weren't supposed to go down there was because it was actually a little warmer when we were there, but...
Like 15 degrees.
Yeah, it was warmer. It had been warmer.
It's up on a mountain, too.
Yeah, it's up on a mountain, and all around us, there wasn't... It had melted. They had been having like a heat wave come through, and so the snow had melted except for right there by the falls.
Yeah.
And the spray off from the falls, it was so cold, was turning into ice and snow. So everything right around the falls looked like Narnia.
Yeah.
It was like this really cool thing, and like branches that were really, really thin had like huge icicles all the way up on. It was super cool.
Speaking of Narnia, we listened to...
Oh yeah.
Prince Caspian?
Prince.
No, we listened to Voyage of the Dawn Treader. We listened to...
The Boy.
The Silver Chair.
Silver Chair.
We listened to The Horse and His Boy, and we started The Last Battle. We haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, so
that was
that's
cool.
part of what we do when we're
But we left West Virginia.
Yep.
We went to Kentucky. We stayed in Mount Sterling, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the Cattleman's Roadhouse.
Yeah, it was really good.
We waited like 45 minutes to eat, but it was worth it. It was really good.
It was really good.
We ate too much, but it was good.
It was good. Then we went to Louisville the next morning and saw the four... What's it called? Let's see what it's called. The Big Four Bridge.
Big Four Bridge, which was built in like the 1800s for trains, but they converted it like 10 years ago to a pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
So you can cross the bridge from Kentucky to Indiana. Yeah, and that's what... We didn't do that. We didn't cross that bridge. We went out halfway and shot a video.
Yeah.
And we saw the Yum Center where back in
2007?
2000,
9, something like that.
It was later. I think it was like 2012 or 2000.
Oh, it may have been.
But we were both there at the same time. We just didn't know each other yet.
Yep.
So it was cool.
Yeah.
But then it was starting to rain, freezing rain and snow a lot. So we had to drive back carefully.
Yeah.
And on our way from St. Louis to Rolla, there was like 11 semis that had like flipped and driven off the road.
Yeah, they had a lot of ice. You could still see the ice like all over the trees and the grass and stuff. But the road, they had cleared up the roads by the time we came through, but there were 11 trucks that had flipped and stuff. It was crazy.
Yeah. And that was our anniversary trip.
Yeah, that was our 1-year anniversary trip. It was a lot different than our honeymoon. Our honeymoon, we went up into the mountains in a cabin, and we just stayed in that area. But this time we traveled. We did 14 states.
14 states.
In 10 days. Plus, we saw Lake Ontario, so we've seen 4 out of the 5 Great Lakes now. And we went to D.C. and Canada.
Yeah,
so
we did.
we're at 35 states now in our first year of marriage. We're trying to get 50 before we start having kids. So
we better
see how that goes.
Work on it. But my favorite part of the trip, I would say, was Bennington, Vermont, because we'd given up on Vermont.
Yeah.
And we saw the Bennington Battle Memorial, and I just got really excited about it.
It was cool.
And it was just really neat and really out of the ordinary. So that was like kind of my favorite highlight of the trip. I mean, there was so much that like are just as good as that, but that was just something that sticks in my head.
Yeah. I think my favorite spot was Maine, Cape Elizabeth, Maine. That was just, it was so gorgeous and it's
Really
so
pretty.
peaceful and stuff out there. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But seeing all of like the monuments and all the historical things that you hear and see on TV and hear about all the time, and then being able to see that stuff like all over that whole Northeast area, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we enjoyed our trip. It was fun.
Good times.
So
And we're going to try to get the rest in this next year. We'll see.
got 15 more states to go and one more Great Lake.
That's right.
So we'll see. But that's our recap, which ended up being like 26 minutes long.
So if you're still watching this, you really care about us.
Good job.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
All right. Well, we'll see you when we hit our next date.
All right.
We don't know when that'll be, but hopefully it'll be soon.
Bye.
See ya.